she would grab my hand and say, So I would end up having to spend, some of y'all been there already, some of you understand where I'm going. I would end up spending about 2 hours on the floor, holding her hand next to her. And then when I felt like she would release the grip, I would walk away and go and get me some sleep at 2 and 3 in the morning. Every night, brother, it would do the same routine. Wife never volunteered to take the turn or two. It was always daddy who had to grab her by the hand, walk her through the dark areas, and then put her in the bed and pull the covers over her and hold her hand until she fell asleep. Well, how many know that God every night, sometimes he puts us in dark situations? Sometimes God will allow you to walk through the valleys of the shadow of death. But the beauty of it is, every step that I make, God is yet there holding my hand. And he does me one better than what I did for my daughter. When my daughter fell asleep, I released her hands. But even when I sleep in slumber, God keeps holding me. God never promised that we wouldn't go through something. He never promised that we wouldn't have tests and trials, but he did promise that as long as you go through it, you can make it, you can take it, and you can shake it. Tell somebody next to you, say, I can make it, I can take it, and I can shake it. Come on, shake their hands off like you're shaking it. Tell them I can make it, I can take it, and I can shake it. Can I tell you one more thing before I sit down? God has a way of providing me assurance and insurance. Insurance covers my damages. When I go through my trials and tribulations, that's why I don't look like what I've been through, because I had insurance. And God is also able to give me assurance that in the midst of my trials, the reason why I hadn't lost my mind just yet is because God gave me assurance that I'm going to make it through this one as well. In other words, he's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That's assurance. If it were not for God's keeping power, then my mind would have driven me over the edge a long time ago. I wish I had some witnesses in the house that you almost lost your mind. If it were not for God's keeping power on my body, then I would have called it quits a long time ago. But he gave me just enough breath, just enough strength to see another day like today. And it seems like every morning he wakes me up with brand new mercy, brand new grace, and strength to make it another day. Well, if he hadn't been keeping your mind and your body, then somebody ought to be able to testify that God has been keeping your soul. That God, in his preeminent foreknowledge, knew that one day we were going to stray away from his plan. So he decided, when you decide you're going to follow the devil, I'm going to put an addendum clause in your contract with the devil. And I'm going to say that he might have you right now. But if you ever confess, here's an addendum clause, if you ever confess Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, then immediately the clause and the contract is made void. The devil had a contract on somebody in here on today. He thought that he had the last say-so in your life. But all God said is if you can confess Jesus Christ, risen from the grave, that he will save your soul. And it's not only insurance, but that's assurance. Excuse me, I just had a flashback on something that could have happened to me, and I gave God the glory. I just thought back on my could have, would have, and should haves. Some of y'all need to think back to some could haves, would haves, and should haves, and realize that if God had stepped in when he stepped in and keeping you like he's been keeping you, then we both would have been in hell a long time ago. But how many shout glory to God that God is still keeping you?
Come experience God on the hill at 45